Let's see. Okay, there's one more thing on here too. Okay, let's see. Welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning into tonight's work session. Work sessions are conducted to provide the City Council with introductory information, opportunities to provide staff guidance, and to facilitate initial conversations on a topic. No votes are taken. As such, there is not an opportunity provided for members of the community to provide comments or ask questions during a work session. Those interested in providing comments to the City Council on any city-related topic are encouraged to participate in community comment during the regular meetings at 7 o'clock. All right, with that, Mr. Shell, you are up first with a new employee introduction.
So tonight I'd like to introduce the newest member to the Public Services team, Matthew Von Bank. Matt's focus is in utilities, but he really helps out in every different discipline. He's very smart, very technical, willing to learn, and extremely hardworking. And with that, I'd like to introduce Matt Von Bank.
Welcome, Matt. We didn't just lose him, did we?
No, he's there. He's human.
Oh, look at he turned on his camera. Okay, sorry about that, Matt.
Human now, not just letters.
Matt, did Chad give you a heads up about how we like to learn a little bit more about new employees at the City of Carver?
Certainly, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
So what we like to do for the rest of you guys, Matt, tonight we've got our Parks Commission with us, which is a little bit out of the ordinary, but a really welcome addition. So everybody gets to play along. We play 2 truths and a lie, so Matt has been prepared. So he's going to tell us 2 truths and a lie, and then we do a show of hands which one we think is the lie. So have at it, Matt.
Okay. So the first one is I'm a twin. The second one is I got my pilot's license at 18 years old. And the third one is I'm drawing a blank now. I grew up on a farm.
Okay. Show of hands, which one's the lie? Okay, so Matt, if you can't see us in the room here, we've got a good mix. A lot of folks think 3, but there's one vote for just about everything. So which one is the lie?
So I got my pilot's license at actually 17. So it's kind of a truth, but kind of a lie.
Wow. Okay. And you did grow up on a farm and you are a twin.
Nice. Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for indulging me. I think it's always a fun way to learn a little bit about our new employees and kind of to put them in the hot seat. So thank you so much for playing 2 Truths and a Lie with us, and welcome to the City of Carver.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you're welcome to join us for the rest of the meeting, or you can duck out right now. So have a good night. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. Up next, we have the Ironwood Park Development Discussion with the Parks Commission. Go ahead, Erin.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
I think we're going to start with introductions from the council and members of the Parks Commission, if that's okay. So Joy, do you want to get started?
Oh,
I'm Joy McKnight. I'm on the City Council.
Lori Sayer, City Council.
Good evening, Courtney Johnson. I'm the mayor.
Christy Mock, City Council.
I'm Anna Dingler. I'm on the Parks Commission. Go ahead.
Mackenzie Tomt on the Parks Commission.
Kaylee Swanson, Parks Commission.
All right, and Glenn, I know we have you on the Zoom as well as Marcus, so Glenn, why don't you go ahead? Glenn's on mute, but that's Glenn Henry. He's on City Council. Marcus, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, can we not hear them because we're not in the cloud or whatever?
It's running off Brent's.
Yeah, I think we have to go back. Right now.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes,
There we go.
now we hear you.
I didn't change anything.
It was us.
It was
Oh, well.
us. My apologies.
I'm here. It's Glenn.
Okay, so that's Glenn. He's a City Council member. Marcus, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Marcus Shaw, Parks Commission.
All right. Welcome.
I got it. So I think we're going to run through my presentation and then we'll switch to Brent so we can interact with the Zoom folks after, if that works.
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect. That one's for the next thing. Okay, tonight we're doing a kickoff for Ironwood Park. So a little bit of information in the beginning, and then we're going to open it up for discussion. We have some questions that were in the packet that we'll talk through as a group. And then the council's role in this a little bit is to empower the Parks Commission to make a bunch of decisions over the summer and fall. So we'll work through that together. So Ironwood Park, for anyone who's listening, not super familiar with the city, is directly adjacent to Carver Elementary. It is kind of the center of all the construction that's happening right now. So a lot of activity in this area, a lot of new residents, a lot of road projects happening, so access will be great in a couple months. So starting to think about this project with Timber Creek, which is the next residential development that will come online for Carver, the 349 unit project proposed by Summergate and Lennar. So thinking through that project, thinking about this area of town, we saw there was opportunity for Ironwood Park expansion. So Ironwood Park, we've talked about it a lot historically with development with the elementary school. The fields that are there obviously took quite a bit of planning. I suspect some of you were involved in that on some role, whether it be the Planning Commission, Parks Commission, City Council. So we are looking right now to think about the expansion of that park. So with Timber Creek, we've had the opportunity to work with the development team to absorb an additional roughly 3.7 acres along Ironwood Drive that will be used for park facilities in this area. Along with that 3.7 acres, additionally, there's some space in Ironwood Park that we currently don't have programmed that we're looking to this shared group to help us think through some things that we might like to add to that park. So beyond the fields that are there, beyond the playground equipment at Carver Elementary, what else could we add to this park that would be a benefit not only to new residents, but also existing residents that could use that park a little bit differently. So the map on the screen right now is a visual from Timber Creek. You'll see, oh my God, I've lost control. The 3.7 acres. Something else we were really thoughtful about in this project was trail connection. So you'll see several connections going into that park. So thinking thoughtfully how people get there. We are planning right now for an addition of some parking facilities along Ironwood Drive. Just knowing right now that field is pretty heavily used, and Ironwood is often takes the brunt of that parking. So how can we get it off the street, allow Ironwood to continue to operate as more of a collector street? But what else can we add to this park that we think would benefit the city? So we are working with Bolton and Menk right now, our city engineer team, on the areas of the park that we're looking to develop. So you'll see on the screen now, there are a couple of spots, one directly south of Monroe, so it's existing right now in our park, largely under-programmed. It's a practice field right now, but it's not heavily used. There is the center of the trail circle, that's roughly an acre, and then the additional 3.8 acres that we anticipate with Timber Creek when their platting is finalized. So we're looking for programming of some existing areas in the park along with the additional 3.8 acres. So I want to talk through some of the nitty-gritty details. The Parks Master Plan that we adopted in 2019, it contemplates a pavilion in this area as well as outdoor games. So permanent outdoor games, things like ping pong, cornhole, things that don't leave. So they might be made of cement or something that makes them more permanent there. So two things that we consider in the Parks Master Plan. Something in the master plan did not consider, though, was expansion of Ironwood Park. Timber Creek was not in for application at that point, so we weren't able to say, oh, we anticipate we'll be getting this much park. So the Parks Master Plan has some information, but I think we'll be looking for more as we continue through this process. So details, we are hoping for construction spring 2022, likely into the summer. Right now we're shooting, oh, I'm missing a zero in one of my millions, sorry. Proposed budget of about $1 million to $1.5 million. And once the Parks Commission works through some of these details, this project will obviously be reviewed by the City Council, but we also recognize the close partnership we'll need to have with the school district. So once we get a rough draft, we'll meet with the school district, say, this is what we're thinking. We've already realized we think about things a little differently than the school does. So like a climbing tower sounds great to us, but unleashing a group of kindergartners on that might not be ideal for the elementary school. So we'll work closely with both groups, the City Council and the school district. We're anticipating this planning process will be through summer and fall of 2021. So again, the commission, the council empowering the Parks Commission to make some of these big decisions, knowing some principles that we hope to hold true for Ironwood Park. So in the packet, and a couple questions I'm going to ask the group at this point, I'm going to run through them so then we can open up to Marcus and Glenn. I'll be happy to reread them to you if you would like. The big questions: do you use Ironwood Park today? How? What additional programming would allow for all residents of Carver to use Ironwood Park? And what would a successful project look like to you? So 3 really big questions. I'm not looking for success looks like, for me, looks like the skate park here and the pavilion here and a new soccer field here. We're not looking for that level of detail. Just some big questions that will guide the work that the Parks Commission does. So not looking to dial in on specifics, large scale ideas of what we're looking for.
Erin, I have a question just about the school district. So this is city-owned land here.
It is.
So we're taking into consideration the school district. Are they planning to use this on a regular basis too? Like, what is our agreement, or I guess our usage agreement with them for this area?
Sure. So I anticipate that they will use portions of the park that are close to the elementary school. Like, I know we've talked a little bit about a nature-based classroom in that area. So if it's something that is close to the school, I think they will use it for recess class programming. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago talking about Carver Elementary, their new expansion, and they said some of the reaches of this park are a little too far for their recess programming, just to get kids over in the recess time with supervision. So I would anticipate the area maybe in the center of that trail to potentially be used by Carver Elementary, where the additional 3.8-ish acres, likely not used for school programming, but could be used in addition to Carver Elementary.
Okay, so when it comes to the 3.8 acres, we don't have a technical use agreement with them, though. This is just we're trying to play nice with the neighbors. Is that
Correct.
what it is? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to, unless there's specific questions about the PowerPoint, I'm going to hop off so we can get Glenn and Marcus on the screen, if that works.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Alrighty. So those big overarching questions, I'm going to start putting some people in the hot spot unless conversation starts organically. So unless someone has some big thoughts right now, I'm going to randomly call on someone. Are we ready?
Ready.
And go.
All right, Anna, we're going with you.
You're going. We don't really use Ironwood Park today. Occasionally we've gone to the playground at the school, but not so much like Ironwood Park as a whole. What I think could help all residents. Let's see. I know things we've talked about in the Parks Commission before were like adaptive playground stuff or like older adult kind of attractions. So I feel like we target a lot of times the kids in like young adult group. Some of those other age groups would be good, or affinity groups, or whatever you want to call them. Successful project, I guess, is just making sure we integrate, things that are going to work best for the community as a whole, and not just tailoring to one specific need.
Who wants to snowball?
I can. I use Ironwood Park quite a bit because I'm in Copper Hill, so I live close to it. So a lot of times if I want to go on a longer walk, I'll walk through the trails over to John the Carver Parkway when it wasn't under construction, and back down. And then I've also used like that backfield that like you have to go over the bridge to get to like let my dog run around and stuff like that. I think the pavilion would be a great addition to the park. I also reached out to the Copper Hills neighborhood page just because we're so close, just to get some ideas. And they had opinions that, of course, are not on here anymore. So I asked them I asked them that same question, that number 2. Someone said, I'd love to see extension and addition of paved walking, running, and biking trails. Options are very limited in Carver. I could see parents and siblings using the trails during sporting practices and games. So we kind of had a thread under that one about how the Timber Creek proposed development does have trails that go down through the neighborhood and to the ravine and stuff. And then someone said, I would love to have a more toddler-friendly park. Olson Park is great and close by, but the little struggle getting up, and this mom is not great at having to get them down when they do manage to make it up top. The school is nice, but not always available to use. Someone said a splash pad, and I did take screenshots of that proposed one that's for downtown and send that to them.
And then someone said, how will parking along Ironwood be handled once the extra space is created and Ironwood is turned into a collector street? Will there be an extra parking lot to the west of our fields, or will the elementary school suffice, and with no parking signs added along Ironwood? And then someone sent a picture of that screen that has like that more parking on the bottom there. And then the last one was another hockey rink. I know there's one at the bottom of the hill, but having one within walking distance of several houses up here would be great. So that's kind of the feedback I got on that as well.
Wow, doing the community's work.
And I think just a successful project would be having a park that looks complete, because there's just a lot of, you know, trails that kind of taper off there and things. So that's all I got.
Is the geography going to be pretty just flat, open grass? Right.
Mostly, yes.
Well, I'll go with number one. I don't use Ironwood Park very often. I don't have small children. I don't take kids up to school there, and then it's on the opposite side of town for me. But I do think it's an interesting idea to think about a few of, I actually had another one written down, a few of the things that we had in the comp plan that we had maybe planned in other places, and looking that up there might be a spot for it. So I had written down, just as an example, the Frisbee golf that we had talked about at 40 and 11. What was that?
Creekside.
Creekside, thank you. There's another
I
name
know what
that's
you
in my
wanted to
head,
say.
but I'm trying not to use it. So thinking about maybe moving some of those projects ahead or up here, maybe they actually are a better fit. Not that I don't think Frisbee golf down there would be a good fit. I think it would be great down there, but maybe there's opportunity for two. But the splash pad up there by the school actually seems like a very interesting idea. I don't know what the logistics of having that put in up there as compared to down here would take, but that might actually be an even better fit in my mind to have some of that up there. So maybe there's some things that we can move forward with up there that are in the comp plan that are just lagging behind because of we have to develop the whole rest of another park down here first, where we're already doing it up here. And then the successful project, I mean, obviously with people that use it, I would love to see lots of trees along the trails and things like that. I mean, it's all very new up there, but eventually it'll be nice to have that shade and places for people to sit under and hang out, especially if it's like last week. So that's my comments for that.
We use it every once in a while. We've played at the park, which isn't ours, and done the trails and the pond. We've rode our bikes there. We've flown kites there with Zach. So yeah, we use it sparingly because we kind of are down the hill, but we do enjoy the underpass. As far as ideas, going off of, when we talked to the Chaska Community Center people, a lot of people were looking for like a live music opportunity. So that would be cool if we could have a space there that would give us the opportunity. And then I think just some multi-purpose community. I love nature, but it's already pretty flat. But yeah, that would be my vision, multi-purpose community feel.
Kind of going off of that, what about like live music? Could there be like a spot for like seating, I don't know how you would make that, but
Mini amphitheater kind
yeah,
of thing?
something like that along with the pavilion or somehow incorporated into all that. Something like that might be cool.
Yeah, for when Riverside's flooded.
I was like going last, but I'm happy to share my thoughts. So kind of dovetailing from what Kaylee said, I use that park. I will walk up there. Zach likes to fly, they're called stunt kites, and they're probably as big as that window. So he actually has today off, and he's probably very likely up there right now with one of his friends. So I think my preference, and kind of Mackenzie to what you were saying too, with that area that's the 1.1 acres in the northwest corner, I don't think that every square inch of this park needs to be programmed. I think that there's a value in having an open space to let your dog run, to have Zach fly kites, and sometimes he has the neighborhood kids join him up there. So I think that that's one thing that I kind of want to leave the Parks Commission with, or maybe make that request of just because you have the space doesn't mean, and I think our budget will help with that a little bit too. But I don't think that it needs to be, every square inch needs to be programmed. I want it to be accessible. I want to make sure that there's enough parking when there are events there, because I know that we are going to be a little bit limited by the streets on the north and the south of that area, and that you won't be able to park on either one of those streets. So making sure that that is taken care of. For me, for the additional programming, I would really like to see something that's new and unique. I don't want to see another playground there. With all due respect to the Copper Hills neighborhood group, I don't want to see a skating rink there. I want to see something that's unique and that is a draw to that community. I also want to be really careful and respectful of the work that the Parks Commission has done to the Parks Master Plan, and not upend that and put another splash pad up by the school. So I want to empower you guys to think of something that's new and unique and different, and something that is a draw. We just saw, if you guys read the Chaska Herald, that there's a group that lobbied and worked really hard in the city of Chaska to get a cricket, I don't know what it's called, court, field there. So what's new, what's trending, what fits the needs of our growing and diversifying community? What else can we put in up there? I don't think that the topography allows for it, but both Christy and Brent would be disappointed if I didn't mention our community's need for a sledding hill.
You can make that bigger.
Which you guys have heard before, but I don't think that that'll work. Is that a good place to move the community gardens up to, with, again, like the school being right there? In a former professional role that I had, we would put in community gardens at school, and there's a huge benefit to showing kids who don't know, like, this is a tomato, this is where your ketchup comes from, this is a potato, this is where your french fries come from. And kindergartners don't make that connection necessarily. So I'd also love to see, and perhaps it's in that open space, but space for outdoor recreational programs, which would be cool. Yoga in the park. I know that they used to do that in McKnight Park in Chaska. Another really cool thing that I think is something that Carver doesn't have are, if you guys have ever seen it, they have such a thing as outdoor exercise equipment. So something that looks like an elliptical or a pull-up bar, or somewhere where you can do sit-ups or something like that, and they're little stations, and you can kind of do a little bit of a circuit workout. I don't know who said it, if it's you, Anna, or not, but it would be cool to see something. We have a lot of parks that's honestly like skew really young playgrounds, and what about something for us to play on? That would be cool too. Let's see, I think that's it from my notes. Success looks like, for me, keeping within our budget, something for everyone, something that's accessible, and thinking outside the box, being something that's really cool, that's really a draw, that perhaps we don't see in any other park in our community or in any of our neighboring communities.
Courtney, can I just, clarify. When I was talking about the splash pad or frisbee, it wasn't doing two, it was saying moving something forward in the parks plan. So when you were speaking, I wasn't sure if I made that clear or not. So that's what I meant by it, was not replicating it down here and up there. So I just wanted to make that.
Right, no, and I feel strongly that the best place for that is where the Parks Commission put it, being it downtown in the parks plan. So.
Well, and I may not feel as strongly, but that's fine. So that's for everybody to decide.
All right.
Together.
Do you want to go next, Lori?
Sure. Yes, I've used Ironwood Park on the trails, so I don't really think of as the park, but definitely trails. I love the bridge, I call it. Just that feeling of you're just kind of middle of nowhere for a few minutes, and just be able to for a walk. So that's how I've used it. As far as programming, much like Mayor Johnson, my support would come to see things that are not currently offered in other parks. So of that, definitely want to see parking as a priority. Without knowing, what the use is going to be, I know that's going to be hard to come up with with an ideal number, but definitely being aware of that. I really like that there's already a thought about the trail connectivity, so that's great. And for also like things that aren't offered, allowing as much green space so that we can do some things like maybe yoga in the park, which I know they do like at the Arboretum. And as far as there's that third question, what a successful project looks like, I shy away from water feature, splash pad. I just want to, think of the teachers and, what challenges that could be for them. So that might not be the right place. So that's kind of the feedback that I have.
All right, I'll go. I've only used the park for trails. I really like them because it is a bit of a unique space within Carver. So I appreciate that we want to continue the trail connectivity because I think that'll just broaden the opportunities for trails within the community. I like the idea of keeping some space non-programmed, right? So that it can be flexible for those uses like a yoga in the park or other events or kite flying or, kind of whatever. I like that idea a lot. I also like the idea of live music because I'm trying to think about where I would put that in this town, right? And I just think that's a unique space, especially if they were going to be playing the afternoons or evenings or weekends. The kids aren't there in the school. You're not going to bother them. The residential isn't that close by. I think that would be a good place to put that. So I like that idea of having some kind of seating and opportunity for music or other sort of performances there. I think that would be really unique. I also think about pickleball and how popular that was at Community Park, and I just think that's kind of trendy right now. And maybe we want to think about dedicating more space specifically for that use, or if there's a way that we can get multiple uses like tennis courts with pickleball. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area, but that's another idea. So success looks like adding some new amenities to Carver, for sure, taking advantage of large flat spaces for those opportunities because we don't have a lot of those within Carver. Not a lot of flat. So I want us to take advantage of that for sure, enhance the trail connectivity, and add more uses for a variety of ages and types of users.
All right.
I was going to call on Marcus and Glenn.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Marcus, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, shame on me for not speaking up earlier. As far as us using the park, we use the park pre-construction. We would go to actually use either the playground in the back of the school or there's a playground like a block away that we would use. And so we would mostly just be there, just walking around on the trails. And it was more happenstance than going directly to Ironwood Park. I don't have much to add in terms of programming. I think the thing that I agree with most is what's going to make that park unique and not having kind of redundancies where I could go do the same thing down the hill at Community Park or elsewhere. So what's going to bring me to the park that's unique? And then the third thing, there's been a lot of great comments already about what makes it successful being on budget. But also I think having variety and, having some sort of forum where people can kind of give input and we can have some sort of engagement outside of just this room to solicit ideas. There's been a lot of great ideas just in the past couple of comments that I would have never thought of. One being like the adult programming. It reminds me of a park in Ohio that I was at that had like kind of adult obstacle courses kind of thing. Not that we should do it here, but there's just a lot of unique, great ideas out there. So my 2 cents.
Glenn?
Anybody on mute, Glenn? Oh, okay.
There we go. I still like the natural amphitheater ideas just using the elevations and the grades where we can have open space and have music in the back area. There's a lot of great ideas. I agree. This is probably, of all the Zoom meetings, the worst audio I've had. So I've caught bits and pieces of it, but I like uniqueness of what we could do with the park. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to expand into. I would like to see some type of a pavilion of some sort where people, a shelter of some type, um, being as that park is expanding and growing as it is, someplace where, in case there's weather, that people can get out of it. Other than that, I'll listen, but there's a lot of great ideas.
If I can just go back to a couple of the comments that I made, I do like the idea of a pavilion, and I was at, I think it's Lions or Veterans Park in Waconia, or in Victoria over the weekend. Lions for a grad party, and it was a really cool, almost 3, if not 4 season structure there with garage doors and everything that can close, so that, you know, if it is a little bit colder in September, or if there is torrential rain, that everybody could kind of go in there and truly use it as a shelter. I don't know that we really, in the city, have a good, like, kind of what I would consider almost like weatherproof, if you will, shelter. You can certainly kind of huddle in the center and try not to get wet, in like Community Park and in Lions Park, but nothing that's that kind of weatherproof in the city of Carver. That said, I'll fully admit that I fear that that might blow our budget like right there. The other thing, I just wanted to touch on my comment about parking. I do recognize that in this area there is no shortage of parking, but I think it's going to be important for us to make it super walkable, because I've referred to this to Brent before and probably with council, but we're just so stinking suburban, where if there isn't parking right there, we're probably not going to go. So, you know, there's Carver Station, there's the elementary school, which every day at 5 o'clock, when I would imagine would be kind of prime time for this park and for programming, there isn't a single car in there. So just making sure that that's clear and that there are safe ways to cross Ironwood Drive from there. So that's the only thing that I wanted to come back on.
I had a question on Glenn. Was the natural amphitheater, were you talking about somewhere else, or was he talking about at the park?
There's not one in the park, so I suspect somewhere else or new construction.
I have a question about so for the 3.8, because I would assume that's not like fully graded. Is there any elevation, or is it pretty flat?
It's really flat.
All right.
It truly is like the only, I mean, even the rest of the park, kind of the eastern part, northeastern part of that park has a bunch of topography. This part is the flattest 10 acres that you'll find in Carver.
Yeah, we get undevelopable donated, which is great, but
unsleddable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the parking, Aaron, the ghost parking that's on Ironwood right now, can we, being that that is a little bit off of the property lines, can we expand that a little bit farther?
Yes. So we are working with the Timber Creek team right now. We wanted to have this conversation just to hear some of the ideas that people were thinking. If we were going to program every inch of this park, we probably would require the maximum amount of parking. So we'll start tinkering with like pavilion space of how many people per parking stall there should be. And then we'll start thinking internally with some new uses, how many might be there. So the ghost parking is very much just a visual right now.
Okay.
Nothing concrete.
I just thought, you're not gonna do much on the side of the parking, the way it's ghosted in right now anyways, why not expand it and use
Sure.
it? So we can get as many spaces as possible.
Mhm.
Because if all these wonderful things go in, there's just gonna be people everywhere.
Right, I hope so.
I do like the idea of the amphitheater that you guys were talking about. I think that is a really cool idea. And I also do like the fact of thinking a little bit of a different age demographic for the park. I think that would be wonderful. I'm still not opposed to moving a Frisbee golf course up there if there's room for it. But I also agree with most of the comments up here about it, that it doesn't have to be 100% programmed space either. So some just left to be natural spaces would be great.
I think the most interesting and biggest takeaway I'll personally be taking away is that this group largely doesn't use Ironwood Park. And I would say you are a good representation of the community, some with kids, some without, involved in different organizations. So I think that will be an interesting task for the Parks Commission to think about how more community members can be engaged there. So I think we have a rough idea of where we might be going. Parks Commission will start this work beginning in July, hopefully be back before the council, probably early fall, with a rough draft just to say, this is where we're headed, give us some feedback.
So to Marcus's comment, do we have the opportunity within that to kind of get some more community feedback or ideas? Can we solicit, I don't know, on the website or something, throw your ideas here?
I think once
something?
we have a draft of
Okay.
what we're thinking, we'll go out for some community engagement. It just gets a little bit tricky early in the process if we're trying to meet a timeline budget.
Yeah.
And then just some of the work that the Parks Commission is tasked with doing. So once we have a draft, I think we'll go for maybe an open house at Carver Elementary.
Yeah.
Or something where someone could come in and take a look at something.
Good, okay.
All right. Marcus, Glenn, anything else more on this topic? Nothing from Glenn, nothing from Marcus. All right. Good?
Yeah, I'm really
Okay.
excited. Thanks to the Parks Commission for coming in. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
having
you guys,
here.
thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
I know that this is maybe not your first priority on a really nice, cool Monday night, but it's cool to have you guys in here. Oh, cool. It's great to have you guys in here, and I love doing this kind of interaction and working with you guys.
I think we
Hope
should
to see more of
maybe
it.
plan to all be together when we have a draft of the park
Yeah.
too, maybe in a
Mhm.
similar setting, just so we can talk through it together. So let's plan for that in the next couple of months.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
It's
you
helpful
guys are
for us
welcome to
too,
stay,
so.
otherwise, feel free to bug out. All right, moving on to item 4, the 2020 general fund budget. Mr. Merrick?
Thank you. Just gonna spread this out here a bit. Trying to get that. Oh, do the best I can here. All right, so it's that time of year where we're gonna start talking about budgets. And so just before we kind of get off on the details, just wanted to give an overview of kind of what we're talking about, both for the council's benefit and for those that may be watching. Looking at the general fund, you can see there kind of that's rooted, or the foundation is in property taxes, state aids, which would be like local government aid. We also get other types of police and fire department aid, permits, which is building permits, fees and fines. And from that, you can see the foundation that funds all the areas that you see here. So fire protection, recreation, accounting, and so on. We stress this because your water bill, your utility bill doesn't fund those operations. Now, there's a prorated amount. So like, for example, part of my salary and the city clerks and the accountants goes towards that, but all that is funded through the utility bill. So when we go through our long-term plan, calculations are made, and based on those costs, that's how we arrive at what our expenditures need to, or are, and then what the revenues or the utility bill amounts need to be. Does that make sense to everybody? Good. So looking at our schedule, tonight we're doing our kickoff. We'll be, at your next meeting, we'll be doing a long-term plan refresher. So just looking at what we have in our existing plan, we're currently looking at our next version of the plan, so that's adding 2026 and then verifying all the other plans that we had from 2022 to 2025. Is there something behind me?
Me. Oh, the woman walking her dog.
there was
I'm
a woman
sorry.
walking.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Everyone was like looking over my shoulder like I wasn't here. And I know it's dry, but I'm trying to make it fun. So,
I don't think I was that distracted by it.
yeah.
Okay.
Right here,
Contact.
right
Right
here.
here.
The
Sorry, Dad.
Nice looking.
how do you transition from that to this, back to this?
Yeah.
So department heads right now are going through budget worksheets, and then so from the feedback that we get tonight, and then kind of long-term financial plan, we'll be able to provide you with a first draft sometime in August. So The key date is September 20th, so that's when you set your preliminary levy. That's essentially the ceiling, the most that you'll tax. And then from there, throughout the fall, we'll give you individual kind of updates on certain budget areas. Prior to that, though, we'll have several drafts for you to go through. Kind of the key piece is in November or sometimes late October. Residents get their truth and taxation statement, so that's a representation of the preliminary levy that the council sets in September. They'll get that. They'll get notices both for the city, county, and school district, and then some other taxing districts all in one. And then they'll have an opportunity on Monday, December 6th to discuss that with the council. You'll take that feedback in, and if you want to make any additional changes, you'll have the opportunity to do so, kind of landing at your last meeting of the year and on December 20th to adopt the final levy and budget. So looking kind of at what's influencing our budget process for this year, some real heavy numbers with new construction, probably easily the biggest jump that I've seen for residential new construction, and likely something that we'll see for the next few years. We had a big jump last year with the Mills Fleet Farm tax increment district being decertified. So one of the things that we'll really be looking for, we can do some rough drafts on how this will, or rough calculations on how this will impact the levy. But really looking forward to the county giving us that. They give us a formula for tax calculation, which shows what the levy does, because you'll naturally need to have, or in most cases, I should say, you'll have a levy that increases because you have more services to provide to a larger group of people, but it'll be mitigated by that new construction. So for a growing community, you'll see a levy in most cases, not all the time, but in most cases, be larger. But again, it's mitigated, which can be harder to compare to, like I would say, a more developed city like Chanhassen, Eden Prairie will have a smaller levy increase because their population is perhaps a little bit more stable as far as growth goes. But here this gives you an idea of where we've been at for new residential construction value going back to 2015. We're at nearly 7 times the amount that we were in 2015. So if you think about what that does to your budget and levy increases, I think it provides a pretty good context. So looking at where we land, because it's at the end of the day, a lot of this is based on taxes. So we're currently based on final tax rates from last year, the 4th lowest in the county. And you can see how that kind of lines up based on population. Hamburg and New Germany being 2 of the smaller cities in the county by population, and then Chaska and Chanhassen being somewhere between 25 and 30,000 residents. Something to point out, I know it seems like 10 years ago, but about last year at this time, we were just wrapping up and saying we're not going to do franchise fees. And really one of the only cities in the metro that doesn't do that. And so something to kind of trumpet to residents as you're talking about these issues is our taxes is our tax, and that there's not additional fees that they get monthly from their cable provider, their electric and natural gas providers. Some things that we want you to think about as we kind of kick off this process, we do have our new debt service for the Jonathan Carver Parkway Improvement Project. The strategic plan identifies a need for a finance director, so you'll likely see that in a first draft. Also could be considering strategies for a pavement management plan. We hope to bring that to you at your next work session. But as you can see from that first conversation that we had on that, there are many different choices that you have as it relates to costs and maintenance. So, you could go anywhere. Right now we're at like 120,000, but you could go all the way up to 800,000, and thinking about the impact, or obviously somewhere in the middle. We are looking at the long-term plan considers evolving our part-time public services tech position to full-time. Again, we're going to be updating our 5-year plan. And then we're also anticipated continued growth in new housing starts. Now, we might not have as many next year as we did this year. We have a lot of lots online, a lot of supply. We're unsure where Timber Creek is going to be in their construction process and in the preserve. So we'll want to be conservative, but not conservative enough or too conservative where our building inspection permit number is kind of irrelevant because we're just blowing past it. Some other kind of on the horizon projects. So we talked about street maintenance. One of the things I'd like to kind of pitch to the council is using local government aid and dedicating that exclusively for street maintenance. We've had a number of conversations throughout the years about is local government aid going to be cut and what we would do for a contingency plan. If the council adopted a strategy to use local government aid, we'd be free from worrying about if it's going to be cut. We'd want it to be there, but we wouldn't have to cut a specific staffer or program. It would be exclusively to street maintenance, which I think provides a better narrative for the city when it is proposed to be cut. We can go to local legislators and say we use that money exclusively for street maintenance projects, and if you cut it, it'll have less than so impact. Chief Trimble is working on updated radios and pagers in the fire department. One of the things that I'd like to throw out there is a dedicated seasonal position. We're going to have a lot of new landscaped areas along the Jonathan Carver Parkway corridor. And then we have plenty of existing areas in our parks and public spaces. And if we want to have that presence of like, this is how our city's maintained, to have a person managing that resource, I think would be critical. In relation to kind of building and growth, we've discussed a community development internship to assist with the workload increase in inspections and permitting and planning. For a couple of years, we've kind of passed on or had a smaller budget related to smaller equipment and public services as a budget piece. So I'd like to try to bring that back. And then we're close to a new collective bargaining agreement. The union adopted the agreement, and so we'll have that at your next council meeting for action. So debt service preview. Now these numbers are based on what we have in our files for debt service. We're going to want to do an analysis with Steve McDonald at Abdo to verify these numbers, but I think two or a couple pieces I'd like to point out, kind of going from the bottom to the top. The 323 is the new debt service for the Jonathan Carver Parkway and local road projects. But two interesting pieces that I think will definitely impact your budget, I think, thinking for this year, but more than likely in the years to come, is we are on our last year of our 2010 payment, so $184,000. And then next year will be our last payment on the 2015 B refunding. So you think about kind of what that could do for a tax impact, but also some of the other projects that we're considering. So public services, building addition, fire department, turnout gear expansion room. One of the other pieces is County Road 40 that Dan will be talking about tonight. There'll likely be a local portion depending upon the scope of work. So not entirely sure how these puzzle pieces are going to fit together, but knowing that you have some additional capacity that wouldn't necessarily require increasing taxes, but maybe maintaining the amount that you're at, gives you some more flexibility in thinking about options. So general levy fund history, or general fund levy history, I just noted kind of where we're at. And so if you did nothing else and just kept a flat general levy, we're still looking at, nearly $400,000 in additional debt service on that debt levy. So some, on top of all the things that we kind of mentioned. So, definitely kind of the same as previous years, a complex and kind of complicated and impactful budget season coming up. And then what we're looking to get from the council tonight is basically a set of guiding principles. Obviously, we've hopefully have attempted to paint a broad brush, but we wanted to kind of have a conversation so that when you see a first draft, it's not completely departed from where you'd want to be. Obviously, you'll need some more details, but these questions are hopefully maybe enough for you to maybe share kind of where you're thinking, things that you're excited about, things that you're like, ooh, I'd rather not do that, just so that we can have a sense of how to prepare that first draft. So that's what I have related to the budget kickoff. I look forward to getting some feedback from the council on any one of these questions or thoughts that you'd like to share outside of that.
All right. Does anybody have any questions before we kind of go into these 5 questions?
No.
Thank you, Glenn, for shaking your head. You are this big in the monitor, so I appreciate that. It makes it easier to see. Well, why don't we start and we'll all go around and answer number 1 together. And then, so unlike what we did with the Parks Commission where we all took time to hit them all. Who wants to go first with the first question? What are your takeaways, opportunities, challenges, goals, etc. after listening to the 2022 budget kickoff presentation?
I can go. For me, the idea of dedicate 100% of that local government aid for the street maintenance. But I have just questions too, like, so then what if we don't get it? Do we just hold off on doing the street work, or, you know, what's contingency? But
It would be likely a combination. So depending upon where you set your street maintenance budget at, you know, in some cases it could be 100% if you said that's what we want to spend. But if it's you know, half of it, then yeah, then there'd probably be a conversation about deferring a certain street project. So that's the downside. I think the upside was we typically, if we're faced with a cut, we'll go through probably 20 different things or a dozen different options of, like, we could cut this by 2,000 and cut this by 5,000. In my mind, for efficiency's sake and for like a narrative to share with elected officials, it makes it about one thing. So it's a little easier to say, like, we can't do Elm Street because you're cutting local government aid, instead of going to Representative Nash or Senator Coleman and saying, we'd have to cut this program by 2,000 and postage by 500.
Okay.
I think if you'd ask, and this is an assumption, but I think if you'd ask elected officials at that level, they're thinking that money helps to go for infrastructure, is kind of at least what I've heard anecdotally from electeds at that level. But a lot of, you know, folks use it also for police and fire. And then some, it just kind of gets absorbed, kind of like our current use right now.
no, then thank you for answering that, because that makes sense. It's more something that's like a visual, like this is exactly what it'd be versus, you know, all these various line items, maybe a percentage here, different percentage there. So one of my other takeaways is that I like that this could be the opportunity to add a dedicated seasonal to help with the landscape. That's always been a concern of mine with adding, you know, some of these nice new things. Still wanted to, you know, look well taken care of. So yeah, those are the 2 takeaways that jump out at me. Actually, there's another one too. Definitely, like, priority wise, and this maybe comes up in something else, but just knowing that we need to plan for having a senior person in that finance position within the city staff.
Sure, I'll go. So my key takeaway was about the debt, to your point about we've got some that are in their last payment this year and coming soon. So I think that helps us as we think about maybe what we want to defer. If there are certain things that we still want on the plate, we just want to push them off a little bit. That helps us have some of those discussions, and knowing that that's out there is really helpful to see that big picture.
Glenn? Sorry. Okay, Glenn, I'm gonna let you work on that. Go ahead, Christy, while Glenn's, okay.
I'm off mute, but I do that just to simplify our lives. My biggest takeaways of this kickoff, I'm excited about the new construction value, just on the impact that that's going to have. I think that alone will have a huge, huge impact on lowering people's taxes. I also love the fact that we still don't have franchise fees, and we're not afraid to tell people about it. And when I tell people about, well, we didn't know that. Well, it's when you explain stuff to them, then they'll get a better understanding as to just why the taxes are. When I look at being fourth on the Carver County cities list, I don't think we're going to surpass Victoria anytime soon, but we will definitely put room between Carver and Victoria for the impact on each resident. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what those impacts are going to be. Those are my takeaways.
Thanks, Glenn.
The LGA was one of my questions, so thanks for explaining that, and what we do if we don't receive it. One question for the general fund levy history, if we want to go to that slide. If we have just that additional debt service added on and we were to stay status quo, do we know what the percentage change might be? Approximate?
We can calculate it here quick.
Okay. Everyone now's your chance to look out the window.
Yeah.
That'd be 33%.
Yep.
Percent increase over year.
Oh,
Thank you.
my answer is I don't know.
Okay. Okay. That is fine. All right. 33.
Kristen
I
just
was.
had a heart attack.
I did. Did you hear it?
I did.
Okay.
And I was like, is there a digit off?
I'm not Goodwill Hunting. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thanks for trying.
So the increase was similar.
If you keep talking, I can try to.
Okay, I have another question then.
Yeah,
So if you
that's
want to
true.
keep trying to
Yep.
calculate that on the spot, I appreciate it. When we were looking at the finance director position for 2022, I thought that we were doing some of that to coincide with Kathy Elke's retirement. She's not retiring in 2022, right?
Right. The
Yeah, I know.
the outgrowth of the strategic plan was to move it up and
Okay.
not wait till Kathy retires.
Okay, okay.
We wanted to have somebody in place before so that there wasn't that.
Some overlap. And what year has she said that her plan to is? Do you remember?
She said a year, and now she's kind of backed off from that. So
Okay, and that's fine,
Determined.
that's fine, I just wanted to clarify that. Those were, besides the LGA, those were my 3 questions, so.
Just kind of on the vein of what you were talking, we would have a finance director and keep that accountant role, correct?
correct.
Okay, so it doesn't go away with her retirement. I think for me, my key takeaways were the challenges that debt service levy
How much of an increase?
and looking
that
at what the
is.
JCP project is going to, just the
Much of
general
an
debt
increase
service
that
levy
is
just kind of
over that.
scares me because that's a really big increase, despite having strong development. And I think that that's one of the
3.2.
opportunities of the continued strong growth. I do love the idea of using LGA for our pavement management and for streets. Can you remind me how much approximately LGA we got last year? I feel like 400 some.
Oh no, like 150,
Oh God, I thought it was
160.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of the price of the plow truck.
Price of plow truck, Chad, is 220, I think, right?
Okay, so I'm wrong on everything. You made your point, Brent.
Okay, I got the number verified.
the number?
Yep, and I asked Dan to verify it.
That's good.
11.9%.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's not 33. I choked.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, let's move ahead to number 2. At this point, what parts of the budget do you consider a priority? What areas should be considered for deferment?
Mayor, can I, before you get into that?
Yeah.
I think that's the 11.9 is a critical piece, because if you look at this and you look at the levy increases, So 14.5 with a new construction at I'll just jump back here. So when we had a 14.5% increase when we added the city hall. So that was 2 years ago. So if you look at that in 2018, 2019, even 2019, we're at almost $40 million in new construction. So that's where I think it's a good conversation to have, because there's going to be some sticker shock depending upon where you're at. If you're double digits, there's a kind of a certain stigma attached to that. But that percent of levy increase with new residential value that's kind of commensurate to it has a different kind of feel than if we were at that $5 million mark and doing a levy increase. So the numbers will really matter with the context, but if you just give somebody the number and say the levy's going up by X percent, I think that's why it's going to be important for us to help you get the information you need, because you'll be the ones out there kind of attempting to justify whatever number you land on. So,
and I think we did a good job of telling that story last year too. Of the levy went up by a certain amount, but our tax rate went down.
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
So
Correct.
yeah, I think it's all in taking the time to tell that story.
Yes.
Okay, on to number 2.
Priorities?
Okay, Joy, you seem ready.
Pavement management plan. I'm very anxious to see the plan. I know it's going to be a lot of sticker shock, but I really want to figure out how to plan for it. That's more of my concern, and try to lay out what that plan might look like over the next couple of years. And so that's one of the biggest priorities for me.
Just to add, so we'll have that. One of the things that we're going to do once we have 4 different options we're looking at. Great. And we're going to ask Steve McDonald to do a sensitivity analysis. So basically, if you would have added that to the budget last year, what that would have done to someone's taxes. It's not going to be perfect because that's not going to be the budget for next year, but I think it'll give you some idea of what a certain number would do to the overall tax situation for a property owner.
Okay.
Anything for deferment, Joy?
I don't have anything specifically identified at this point in time.
Okay. Lori, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. High priorities, the same as Councilmember McKnight, the pavement management plan. What areas to consider for deferment, low priority? I would like to be able to see exactly what money do we give to nonprofits and know what that is, and then I need some education on, when can we make a change? I just want to be able to look at some of those little things. And if every group starts asking us, I want to just know who we're already contributing to. Like, I'm thinking WeCab, and I don't really know what category always to put some of the other transportation, like Southwest Transit, but I'd like to know more, what things do we have the option to say no to, and when do we make that decision?
Sure. I can tell, like, WeCab is the only nonprofit the city provides funding for.
Okay.
But I could certainly attempt to put like categories of like you have to pay the electric bill, but discretionary.
Yes. Yeah.
So like yes, we
like
Prime would be
like
an
one I
example.
think of, and it to me though, this isn't going to really align because to me this is actually a high priority. But I think about how we help fund the police patrol at Steamboat Days. How are we going to handle it if another organization comes in and says, hey, we're having, this event, will you help fund? So just some of those kind of one-off categories that aren't, electric bill, what things, could we, look into, and, do we have the option of saying no?
That's it?
Yes.
Okay, Christy? Glenn, you're on deck. Oh, good, and you're off mute. Okay.
What?
He knows the drill.
I agree with the pavement management plan. That to me is very important. I don't, when I look at this right now, I don't have a lot that I don't think, this doesn't appear to have a lot of fluff in it already, things that were just the big wish list. I think it's pretty lean, the things that you've even brought forward right now. I know Callie's here, and there's some numbers for the fire departments for the radios and pagers. Do you have a ballpark of what that is gonna cost?
About 80,000.
For both of them together? And I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on tonight. My allergies have been bad. You'd think the nice weather today would have stopped it, but I know that the Lions Club has donated a couple of them, and there's possibility that we could do maybe a larger donation next year. I know that's different for budgeting, but I mean, we're talking, it could, I'm not gonna throw out numbers, but it could be a significant amount that might help take off some of that. So I know there might be some other cost savings, excuse me, areas for things like that, especially for the fire department. People, I mean, that's a great place to donate to if you're gonna donate to something. When we're talking about the collective bargaining agreement, can you remind me just a really brief overview of what that change is to 2022?
Not from memory. I mean,
Okay.
it's not, I would say in the grand scheme of things, it's not significant.
Okay.
I'll have it presented to you at your next meeting, but I don't want to be wrong with that number.
Sure, but this is what we
33%.
But no, I mean, that's what we went over before, right? That's nothing new and shocking. Okay, I just, when I saw it, I just
Everything
thought
is
maybe there was
this-
something different.
What you saw for the outline of the agreement has stayed exactly the same.
Okay, and that's all I have then.
Did you have anything for deferment?
When we go forward with some actual numbers, it
Yeah,
might
okay.
be easier, but there's nothing right now.
Okay. Glenn?
I think staffing is high on my priority list, with the planning position and the, full-time, other position. And another thing that I would like to bring back to the top is the, looking into the future of the parks building, or the utilities building and the fire department building, and that I think that's something that's going to be of a major. I think it's time that we really look at as far as expanding that sooner than later. So those are my only two items.
Anything for deferment, Glenn?
Not right at this point in time. I'm gonna have to dive into that a little bit deeper, but I was more into what I'm focused on, what I'd like to accomplish, than not to.
Fair enough. Let's see, for me, I also had pavement management, but it makes me nervous because I think, if we look, we put $300,000 alone into pavement management last year with the work that we did. And I also remember having to push hard to get an extra 30 grand put into that fund for this year's budget. So that makes me nervous. I think that the staff positions that you outlined are a priority. I agree with what Glenn said. I would love, because it's an issue of firefighter safety, I would love to see at least that fire department addition on the fire station sooner rather than later. But I want to make sure it makes sense, and Brent and I have talked about how it might not be a smart, it's not what I meant to say, for the cost of setting up a construction crew for that little addition and then doing it again for a larger building behind might not be the best idea, to kind of have two construction projects that are staggered, that it might make sense to do it more all at once. And this is a little thing, but I feel pretty strongly about making funding for the farmers market next year a priority. I think that this year is going to be a rough year for it, given the location and the construction and all that kind of stuff. And I think that we need to be committed to doing that for at least 2 years when things will be better and easier to access. I do not have any items that should be considered for deferment at this time. There's rubbed me the wrong way in what was presented. Item number, are you good? Can we move on? Okay. Item number 3 is what key budget messages do you want to share with City Council and staff? Len, do you want to go first on this one?
I didn't get that, Mayor.
We're on
What's
number
that?
3. The question is, what key messages do you want to share with the City Council and staff? It's the last slide of
Keep the budgets tight.
Okay. All right.
Well, and they all, most budget, or most people running their departments really are good about putting their budgets together. Over the last number of years, you guys really look at saving money. I want to look at where we can go with each department, especially the Parks Department, with the development of Ironwood Park, as we spoke about earlier. There's going to be some things as far as the parks expanding, that looking at new staff in that area as well. So other than that,
Say, Glenn?
yes.
Just a
Yes,
note
Brad.
to you and the entire council, so the Ironwood Park budget is self-contained within the park dedication fund, so you won't see it as a budget item in the 2022 budget. It's 100% funded through the park dedication fund.
I understand.
Now, the city
I
makes
understand.
just one
I
thing.
understand that.
Glenn, hold on just a second. Brent's
What I
still
was-
talking. Go ahead, Brent.
The city does make an annual, in your budget, an annual contribution to the parks dedication fund, so there are property taxes going for it, but just for clarity's sake, sorry, Glenn.
Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
No, thank you. Thank you. I was looking at more from the department side of, in the public utilities. What more, are we going to need more lawnmowers? Are we going to need extra staff for the mowing and stuff like that? Not in as far as the, where the revenues for that come from. Okay? We're good.
All right, thanks, Glenn. Christy?
I don't have any additional messages for staff or council.
Good, because we're running out of time. Yeah, Lori, go.
No, nothing additional.
Joy?
No, just that we want to use state aid for pavement management plan.
Yeah.
Like that.
My thoughts, I agree with Glenn. I think that staff has always done a really good job of getting us your needs and not your wants. So keep it tight. Let's sharpen the pencils. I'm also really looking forward to doing the capital plan, because I want to make sure that we're consistent and they're within reason. There aren't too many big blips. That said, I fully understand that we need public services storage space, and that's coming down the pike. But I want to try to kind of even expenditures out and take a longer look at what's coming, so that we know that we're going to need the XYZ machinery for public services in 2024, and that we can plan accordingly for that.
And just a note, because everyone's mentioned staff, so this budget is built organically, meaning, I don't hand out the worksheets with, this is what you should put in. It comes from Aaron, Callie, Vicky, Chad. The parts that I spend the most time on are engineering fees and legal.
Sharpen the pencil.
That kind of like the fill in the blank kind of stuff, and then kind of putting it all together, talking about strategies for how to fund something. One of the things that Chief Trimbo and I talked about, we have a fire department fund for capital. So could we use part of that money to pay for some of these radios and pagers? On the flip side, we've taken a break for the last couple of years of funding their capital. So maybe we take from that capital, but then say, okay, now we're going to start investing to build that fund back up. So there's some nuances and strategies, but my key point was, because there were some questions last year, which I thought were really good about, how involved our department heads. So it starts with the department heads, and then I kind of collect all the information, work with Kathy, and we put it together. So.
Thank you. Who had any specific programs or services that they want to see studied as part of the next year's budget.
I have one, and I maybe just need to be told where it is. And I forgot to mention it with the street improvements, or the, anyways, it's the paths and sidewalks. Like, where does that fall in?
Yeah, so there's a line item in public services for trails maintenance and sidewalk maintenance.
Okay. Is it just a dollar amount, or does it say it would be this trail, it would be this one?
Yeah, it's just a dollar amount unless there's
Okay.
some specific project. The amount that we've traditionally funded is only for, I would say, spot repairs. If it was anything like a whole entire section, that budget would go up probably significantly. Does it mean, if there's a certain section that you want looked at so that we can put a number in there,
Yeah.
that's something that we can investigate.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Glenn, anything from you?
The only thing is just reiterate the public services fire department expansions. That's one I really want to look at hard.
Yeah. And we're expecting to have that final space study available to you at your next meeting as well. So
Okay, great. I did not have anything for number 4. So
Does that include both the smaller building and then the potential for the larger, what an additional sized building would be?
yes.
Is that true, Dan?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5, other general observations to share with city council and staff. Does anybody have anything?
Nope.
Lori? Glenn, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
My only question was, looking at our debt, and I will admit that I am not an expert in this area, but are there any opportunities? Is it worth exploring refinancing some of our debt?
So we have Paul Stein with Baker Tilly always explores that. So if there are opportunities, it's I'm getting into an area that I'm not an expert in.
We saw that earlier. 33%.
33% cheaper this time, right?
There are certain bonds that are callable at certain periods, so you can't. There's certain rules related to bonds on when they can be refinanced and when they can't.
Okay.
I just don't know the specifics of it, so I know that's an ongoing conversation I have with Paul Steinman of do we have opportunities to refinance, so he knows it's a priority for us.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Brent, you got that number for us within 5 minutes.
She meant to hurt your feelings. So yeah, I think that was the only thing, because just looking at everything that's coming and knowing that we need a public services building and all that kind of stuff, I just see, again, like more mouths to feed in this growing family that you always refer to. So, okay, anything else, council?
Nope.
No. Glenn shaking his head. Okay, I think we're good. Dan, would you like to present the County 40 Turnback Project in 2.5 minutes?
Yeah, I think
or
we should
would you like to
punt
wait?
that.
I think I'm gonna make it.
Okay, so we'll push that to the regular meeting. Brent, do you have a city manager's report?
I just have, one item, I know it's been kind of an ongoing kind of email kind of update, but we have a plan with Wold and K8, we're gonna resurface the flooring in the lower level of the building. It's, they have a kind of a specification of how they're gonna do it. They're gonna use a different product. And the way I understand it, it's a matte, more of a matte finish that they believe will not show kind of the scuff marks. And then we're also coinciding that with working with our furniture supplier on a different type of chair slide or protector for our chairs. So related to that, so they're planning to do that a week from today, so June 28th. Our intention, just so we can save some costs on when they do it, is we'd be open for operation. We'd have staff up here, but we're gonna close down the lobby on the 28th for that afternoon, so from noon to the end of the day, so they can do that finishing work. We'll get that out on the website and social media accounts, but that's the plan, that's the update there. We have had a lot of work done to our HVAC systems that we think has benefited kind of the heating and cooling system, so we're in good shape there. So with that, we also met with the city of Victoria related to, Glenn should appreciate this, our Zoom calls, and so we have a way to get that done. We're working with our current contractor to try to get that done, and the big piece is, we're in the cloud for a lot of things, so now we're gonna try to stay out of the cloud and work in that environment here using our existing camera and microphones to kind of integrate that into the same system. So we feel like we're on the right path. It might cost a few dollars, but I think we have a path to get there for kind of the long-term use that we're likely gonna have for those pieces, so.
Great, thank you. Let's see, any city council requests?
Mayor, it is 10 minutes too. Would you mind if we adjourn before the?
Sure, I have 2 quick council requests though, because I think we can do this quickly. One, there's a program that's called Lights On that I'm trying to explore. So what happens is, if in the cities of Chaska or Eden Prairie, just to name a few, if you're pulled over because you have a headlight that's out, instead of giving you a ticket, you get a voucher that's good for up to $250 to go and get your light replaced or any electrical work that could be good for that. So I'm exploring that a little bit and want to hopefully get some information that I can share with Brent and bring back to council. So that's one of the things. I guess it's not really a request, more of an FYI.
Is the second thing about what we talked about earlier today?
In Victoria, yeah.
I would punt that to the regular meeting.
Okay, so.
So we could have the city attorney kind of walk us through that.
Okay, perfect. So with that tease.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We've got a motion by Councilmember McKnight.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Mock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. See you.